Hello, this is Ken Ferry with this week's Boots in the Field report. I'm going to start out with a weather/crop report. We had some pretty crazy amounts of rain this weekend. Start up there in that Grand Ridge Streeter area. Talking with Bubba, and he reports 5 to 7 inches of rain. Most areas in that 5.5 inches. Fortunately, not much down corn, but the ponds are full. Yield reports up there are kind of sparse. Report of 106-day corn that came out in that 230 range, and an April planted soybean field at the 65 bushel range. But most corn is too wet or not even black layered yet. Slide on over there to Ritchie Grain there at Wilmington. Jeff said that they got 7 inches as well, with 5 inches coming in about a 1 hour time slot on Friday night. Things have been pretty quiet at the elevator. Corn samples coming in that 25 to 30% moisture range, and beans maybe in a week or two before they start to take those out. Over at Trainer Grain and Forest, Jeff said 2.5 to 4 inches. No down corn there, but at the Dwight area they do have corn that's leaning. Still going to be able to get that. They had 2 loads of beans come into the elevator before the rain shut them down, and no corn coming in there yet. Move on over to Donovan Co-op there in the east side of the state. Tim reported about 4.5 inches of rain. Again, no wind damage there. Some late April corn coming in that 200 bushel mark, but they are dealing with some kernel damage with some of that corn. Yield reports are lighter as they get south of 24. Back here in the Leroy area, between 4.5 to 5 inches, depending on the pockets. There is some wind damage to some of the corn in that run. Yields are coming in that 220 range. Yep, soybeans have kind of slipped into the mid-50s as reports come in from there. Over in Tazewell County, market sun ag, 3.5 inches there at Tremont, but up to 7 inches north of Tremont. To the south, down around Manitou and 136, there's an area down there hit with the hard winds to the point where flipping over center pivots, and it did flatten some corn. Corn yields still running strong in that area in that 250 range. Beans are pretty quiet. Most people are out of dry corn. They're waiting for moisture to drop. A lot of corn still in that 30% range. Drop on down to the Blue Mound area. Guys had 3 inches down there. They took out an April cornfield infected with Goss's wilt in that 190, 200 bushel range. Their May corn in the 220, 240 range, and running about 25% moisture. Still nothing done on the soybean front. Slide on over to Saragota and north of Highway 36 from 1/2 inch to 2 inches. South of 36, just a few tints. Guys are able to run chisel plows down there today, and harvest is still going there. Corn yields are averaging in that 220, 230 range, in that 22% moisture. Beans are still pretty quiet in that area as well. Now, field visits this week, most of them were done here close to Hayward. I looked at a lot of corn, I think in that 220 range. I think I was looking at a lot of 55 to 60 bushel beans. We got into some of the fields that were blown down by the July storm that came before pollination. These fields have experienced some pretty heavy losses. My estimate, probably 40 bushel. A lot of this corn is set out brace roots, which meaning it's anchored back down. So it's gooseneck but anchored down, and that means that the only way we're going to get it into the combine head this fall is to break it off as we're pulling it into the head. So you may need to look for the cones for this down corn, or the attachments to pull that down corn into the head to keep it moving or flowing through there. Spent some time in the field over in with the growers over in Donovan, a Donovan Co-op on Wednesday. Saw some pretty good corn over there. Disease pressure is heavy, just like it is everywhere else. And most of the field that I saw anyway, we're still weeks away from getting to black layer, so we need some time over there. But I think we're going to get that. Hearing a repeating theme on yield reports coming in here the last couple weeks anyway, and definitely this week. Guys are seeing big numbers on the combine monitors, but the field averages aren't what they expect. I had a grower say, I can't wait to see the yield maps, figure out where all this corn went. we're seeing too high a numbers on the monitor compared to the field averages. If you think back or pull out your drone pictures, how these fields looked from emergence to knee high, it'll help explain why the field averages aren't matching up to the highlights that you're seeing on the monitor. These side hills and ponds will pull those averages down pretty quick. As some yields from the dry area are coming in and in that 120 bushel range and the good area in the 220, 230 range, my expectations that this year's crop would be about 30 bushel behind last year might be a little light. It might be moving more towards 40 or 45 bushel behind if these reports don't start to pick up soon. We had some April beans in that 80 bushel mark. We had early May beans in the mid to low 70s. The later May beans, as they start to come in, we're seeing that number drop down into the low to mid 50s. I know most of you would like to get this year behind you, put it in the books and scrap it as soon as you can. A grower told me the other day, I don't think we're going to learn anything from this year's yield maps because this year's been so out of the normal. And his question is it really worth the time to calibrate the yield monitor, or can I just use last year's calibrations and be done with it? Well, I and the crew here at Crop Tech strongly disagree with this thinking. First off, this yield that you're harvesting this year is not like last year's in test weight and flowability and harvestability. So most likely your flow rates last year are going to match these. Most likely you're going to have a wider flow range, bushels per hour, than you did last year to catch these wild swings. Off years like this, though, produce the most useful maps. The GIS crew here at Crop Tech would call these the money maps. The well-calibrated combine helps us dive deeper into that variability within your field when we're doing the yield maps. And this is the years that produce it. We have some fantastic maps from 2015 and 2012 that help us identify the characteristics in that field. Don't waste the opportunity to capture a great map that helps us build the best plan to attack these fields. Trust me, you'll thank me for this when we sit down and we go through the yield map consultation, that you got good detailed maps. For all the guys who received that 4 to 7 inches this past weekend, let me tell you what to expect on your earlier April and early planted May corn. In most of these fields, the corn stalks are dead, and we're waiting for dry down, especially if it wasn't sprayed with a fungicide. These saturated soils will stay saturated for a week or two if we don't get any more rain. With saturated soils and warm temperatures, we'll have rapid development of crown rot and stalk diseases. In about 2 weeks, you'll have 2 types of corn, down corn and corn that's going down. The late May and June planted corn that is still green will be a different story. Live plants can stave off the disease better. In the June fields, we'll have some time to dry these soils out before these plants become susceptible. The good news is we don't have much April or early May corn. Now, how's that for putting a positive spin on it? When the opportunity arises here, we need to pounce on this early corn and get it out of there before we got a mess. I do believe the June corn will fare better when it comes to stalk quality as long as it doesn't keep raining. With this week's high temperatures, if they continue, it'll continue to move the June corn along and improve the yield. Usually we see the best corn yields in the first 3 weeks of harvest, and then it kind of tapers off from there. This year that may not be true. We're seeing some pretty good looking June corn out there I'm going to be excited to get into, especially as it looks like we're going to be able to reach into October before we worry about a frost. Soil testing crews are out this week cleaning up behind combines, as well as preventive plant takers to kick off our fall testing season. Like the summer testing season, they're now rained out. But it won't take long to dry out a bit, and they'll be back in there picking the rest of these up. So don't forget to call in your fields as you harvest them. Those of you that are in the plot program, give us as much heads up as you can. when you're ready to take these plots out, it would be greatly appreciated. To stay up to date, check out our website at croptechinc.com and subscribe to our podcast, Boots in the Field Report. Keep her safe, keep her moving.